Hi guys. So a quick show of hands. How many of you guys love animals or like animal lovers in here? Okay, cool. I'm sure that you guys all remember back in 2005 when we had Hurricane Katrina and the devastation that it caused. It left a lot of people homeless. But what they also don't talk about is it left a lot of animals homeless and stranded and scared as well. A few months after Hurricane Katrina happened, I actually adopted a 8-month-old German Shepherd named Lucy, and she was very, very sick from being out on her own. She was malnourished because there was just no one that was able to feed her, and she was also scared. Adopting Lucy was, still probably is, one of the most rewarding things that I've done with my life because I just see a change in her. She's a lot healthier now. She's happy. She's actually getting old. She's about 11 now, but she is definitely part of my family. Today, I want to convince you guys to adopt from animal shelters as opposed to adopting from a private breeder, because there are many, many animals out there just like Lucy that need homes, that we can't always find homes for them. So I think there needs to be a lot more participation in that sense. So I'm going to be going over 3 main points for you guys. The first one would be the cost difference between a animal shelter or a private breeder, or puppy mills is what they're called. Next is going to be animal selection and how the animal shelters actually treat their dogs as opposed to puppy mills. And then the very last one would be why supporting an animal shelter actually decreases the likelihood that puppy mills will actually still be able to run in the future. So the first one would be cost. When I adopted Lucy, it cost about $250, which sounds expensive, but it's actually not. We adopted her from German Shepherd Animal Rescue in Orange County, and with that, we didn't just get the dog. We got all of her vaccinations taken care of. She was microchipped. She was spayed, and they also do that to all the dogs. They spay and neuter it, so it comes with that. Another great thing about animal shelters is that they have a lot of fee waivers a lot of the times because they just get so overcrowded that you can even get better discounts on the dogs. For first-time buyers, if you guys aren't really familiar with like dogs and what they need, sometimes the animal shelter will even throw in bags of food, collars, bowls, things like that, everything that you'll need. And then they'll also be on call. I know that there's been a couple of times where Lucy's been sick and we haven't been able to call a vet, so we just call the shelter, and they're constantly on call, able to help you. But as opposed to puppy mills, according to the Animal Humane Society, nowadays, or last year, it costs anywhere between $600 to $3,000 for a dog. And with that, you're just getting a dog. You don't really know their temperament. You don't really know anything about them. Sometimes they come with illnesses, things like that, because the care that the animals are in at the puppy mills is actually a lot worse than the shelters. But for some reason, people think that that's flipped, but it's not. The next thing that I want to talk to you guys about is the animal selection. So animal shelters in the past, or pounds, have gotten kind of like a bad reputation, or we tend to think that those are the unwanted dogs, but that's not true. Animal shelters aren't giving out dogs that are unadoptable. Unfortunately, there are some dogs that they just can't be adopted. They have aggression issues and things like that. Those aren't the ones that they're giving back and forth to the public. These animals, a lot of the times, are already trained. They are, like I said, they have all of their shots, things like that, and they're just all around grateful that you're adopting them. I know with my dog, she was very, very happy to be adopted, and I'm sure it's like that for the majority of the dogs that are there. With puppy mills, you again don't know what you're really getting, and it's not their intention to save an animal's life. It's their intention to increase their profits as much as possible, which should not be the case. Lastly, I want to really reiterate the point that every single time that you choose to adopt an animal from an animal shelter as opposed to a puppy mill, you decrease the likelihood that they'll be still remaining in business. Last year, according to PETA, there were 2.11 million dogs that were adopted from puppy mills, which seems like a great statistic until you hear the other side, that there were 3 million dogs that were euthanized because they couldn't find homes for them. So this statistic to me is unacceptable, because it's not difficult for us to find homes for dogs. Puppy mills are often just mass breeding facilities. They're privately owned. According to PETA, they actually are not regulated in any way because they are private organizations. And a lot of the times they do not care for the dogs, and they just make the female dogs breed as much as possible with little regards to their health in order to just increase profit. So, in conclusion, I hope that I have convinced you guys, or at least shed a little bit of light. Next time that you're going to adopt a dog, please do it from an animal shelter. Adopting a dog and saving a life is an incredibly rewarding experience. And not only do you save that life, but you also increase the quality of your life as well. Thank you.
So Matt, what did you think?
I think he did an excellent job. I think his delivery was great. He had good eye contact with the side of the room that I was on. I don't know how much he looked at on the other side, but I thought he did well. He improved from his pacing from last time. I remember he had an issue with that, but he did have some meaningful movement. I thought the survey at the beginning was a little unneeded. It was just kind of like something he might have thrown in there at the beginning just to get it all off his chest. But his example with Lucy was very good. It was much better than the hands. It was more personable, allowed us to connect very well. And I like that he was able to keep Lucy in the back of our heads, you know, kind of going back to this personal example as he talked about each of his points. He had good organizational structure and a good preview, although it did kind of feel a little drawn out. He didn't really consolidate it very well. I think he kind of rushed through his points a little bit, but he did manage to keep saying new things each time, not really repeating old points very much. He had a lot of good points and a lot of variety in his content. And I think the conclusion was pretty good, being able to restate all the points.
Okay. Yeah, I'd agree with most of what you said. I think you could lose the audience survey. Talk about Lucy, that's the much better story. That's more compelling. I like the fact that the dog came up several times in the presentation. I do think you could use some personal anecdotes and details in those stories to get us a little bit more emotionally involved about, you know, how rewarding it's been for you, or how the dog has responded to being a part of your family, you know, that kind of thing. I think that would help. The structural stuff is fine. I do think that you need a little bit more research material in the presentation. There's a tendency to assume certain things. I'd be careful about quoting PETA. I know a lot of people think that PETA's a reputable group. They're generally, I don't think they're making up information, but you know, they're a little crazy, you know, frankly, you know, and they would be perfectly happy if nobody was adopting any dogs. They believe that ownership is basically slavery, and we're exploiting another species as a result. So I'd be careful about citing a group like that in advocacy of the position that you're taking, because there might be some inconsistency. American Humane Association is probably a little bit more viable for you. I think you need some more data to criticize the puppy mills with. You give descriptions, but I don't hear any real source citations on that. I think that's a little bit problematic. I noticed what Matt was talking about. You're pretty solid talking to everybody over here, and over here you kind of look occasionally. Don't forget that we're over here, and try and engage us a little bit more. All right, thank you.